Secretary, you earlier in this hearing, you detailed some of the national progress you've been able to make on hiring.
Yes.
But you and I both know that there are particular communities, especially some with CBOCs, that are hard to hire in, really hard to hire in. And, you know, I appreciate that you visited the Gallup CBOC with me back last year. I think it was June. We both talked at that point about the lack of a physician at that facility. We're 9 months later. We still don't have a physician at that facility. Farmington, New Mexico, similar situation with a psychiatrist position. What can we do to give you tools to be able to address some of the particular communities where it's hard to hire in? The ones that have either a shortage of housing, which many of us are experiencing now, or because of their remoteness, it's particularly hard to get professionals to move to. How can we crack some of these nuts in rural, really hard to staff locations?
Yeah. So, thank you. And I want to make sure that I wasn't unclear that as enthusiastic as I am and as proud as I am of our the two best hiring quarters that we've had in VA in 25 years, I also acknowledge that there are still, it's very lumpy, meaning there's places where there are still huge vacancies. Right. Obviously, Gallup is one of those. And I acknowledge that again. You gave us the ability in the PACT Act to use things like the relocation bonus, the retention bonus, to use those more effectively. That helps. We do need authority for, and this is what Senator Bozeman and Senator Tester are getting at with the VA Careers Act, for certain of our providers, and included in this are psychiatrists, to not be capped out at $400,000 a year. And there's plenty of places where that the rurality combined with the non-competitive salary just makes it impossible not to crack. So we need to we need to get out from under that cap. That's the second point. So more effective use of the bonuses you've given us. We need more authority for specialists in particular, and we're hopeful that we get some progress there. Then we have to look at what are the specifics in each individual market. And sometimes that's going to be housing, and I think we have tools that we can use there. Sometimes that's going to be locality pay, and that is just too slow, you know, and this is a big issue for you. And this came to my it came into stark relief when we were together in New Mexico. And we need some help from OPM on that, but we're moving that dial. And then the last thing is special incentives like housing. We do have housing in NCA, the National Cemeteries Administration, in some cases. So we're looking at whether there are not similar authorities available to the Veterans Health Administration, for example, to allow us to house professionals the way we do in some cases cemetery directors in highly rural settings. So I don't have news for you on that, but that's an example of the things that we're doing.
I look forward to working with you on that. I know it's an issue that touches many of the folks on this committee. I am incredibly proud of what we did last year in passing the PACT Act. But I've been surprised that I've actually heard from a number of veterans who are not on social media, some who don't have reliable internet, for example, who were not even aware of the PACT Act's passage. We need to reach those folks. We need to make sure that they know that some of these exposures are covered. How are we going to do that for those particularly, not social media connected, sometimes not internet connected veterans in rural and tribal areas who don't yet know that their exposure to burn pits, their exposure to radiological events is covered under this new law?
Yeah, we just have to keep working this, and it is true that we've deployed some interesting social media tools, but that's by no means the extent of what we're doing. We're doing traditional media, we're doing mailings. I want to get to the point where, because of performance at VA, veterans talk to each other that, hey, I had a bad experience, but I gave it another look. And when I went in, they actually resolved my claim. So we recognize that this is kind of all, we need to communicate on all channels. We want to work with you, as we've talked about. We want to work with the House members. We're working with the state directors of Veterans Affairs. We're working with the governors, and we're working with veteran service organizations and veteran serving organizations to get out there.
Great.
I was just here in Northeast Washington on Saturday at a volunteer event. These are social media connected veterans. They had no idea about the PACT Act either. So this is in every corner. We have to get better at, connecting with what we call untethered veterans not currently in our care. And when we do that, then we'll have realized the promise of this act. Until then, we won't.
Madam Chair, I'm out of time here. I am going to have a question on genomic sequencing and the Million Veterans
Yes.
program that I'll be sure and submit for the record.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Secretary.
Thank you. Senator Rakowski.